In our previous videos, we delved into the twisted minds and heinous crimes of families that would make even Charles Manson shudder. But the darkness doesn't end there. Get ready to descend even deeper into the abyss of depravity as we unveil 10 more families whose wicked legacies will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about evil. Starting off our list today, we are talking about the House of Plantagenet. This was like a real-life version of Game of Thrones, ruling over England from the mid-12th to the late 15th centuries. These guys were at the center of the Wars of the Roses, a messy, bloody series of civil wars that were basically one giant family feud over who got to wear the crown. The family split into two main factions, the Yorks and the Lancasters. Think of them as the ultimate sibling rivalry, but instead of fighting over who gets the remote, they battled it out for the English throne. This internal family drama wasn't just a couple of minor skirmishes, it was a full-on warfare that threw England into chaos for decades. Castles were besieged, armies marched across the country, and battles left fields soaked in blood. Kings were made and unmade in battles like those at St. Albans, Towton, the bloodiest day in English history, and Bosworth, where Richard III famously lost his crown and his life to Henry Tudor, ending the Plantagenet rule and starting the Tudor dynasty. But the family were more than just their civil wars. They were a complicated bunch with a knack for political maneuvering, backstabbing, and dramatic public displays. They built some of England's most famous castles and were responsible for significant legal reforms. But let's be honest, they're mainly remembered for their spectacular fallouts and the way they turned sibling rivalry into a national sport. Their legacy is a story of power, betrayal, and the high cost of the throne, painting a vivid picture of medieval monarchy in all of its brutal glory. Next, we are talking about the Tarverdiyeva family. In Stavropol, Russia, there was a family that turned their lives into a real-life horror movie. Meet the Tarverdiyeva family, led by Inessa and her husband Roman, along with their daughters Victoria and Anastasia. This family wasn't just your average family next door. Over 6 years, starting as early as 2007, they embarked on a terrifying crime spree across the region. Inessa, a former nursery school teacher, and Roman, a dentist, led their family into a very dark world of crime, robbing, and eliminating anyone who got in their way. The family's method was chilling. They used camping trips as a cover to scout for their next victims, ranging from police officers to innocent travelers. Their most notorious crime was the brutal attack on the Chudakov family, where they mercilessly ended the lives of the family, taking trivial items while leaving more valuable assets untouched. This family of serial killers showcased a bizarre mix of domestic life and ruthless criminal activity, making them one of the most disturbing families in recent history. Their reign of terror ended in 2013 when they were finally captured, revealing a cache of weapons and stolen goods. Next, we are talking about the Kelly family. Back in 1887, the Kelly family ran a seemingly innocent inn in Kansas, a place that promised rest for cattle ranchers and travelers trekking across the dusty plains. Led by William Kelly along with his wife Kate, their son Bill, and daughter Kit, this family wasn't just serving up hospitality. They had a very sinister side that turned their homely inn into a deadly trap. The Kellys had a gruesome setup, a chair positioned over a trapdoor at their dining table. Unsuspecting guests who sat there would plummet through the floor, often to their deaths. If the fall didn't do the trick, members of the Kelly family would descend into the darkness to finish the job. But like all dark secrets, this one didn't stay hidden forever. After several travelers failed to reach their destinations, whispers and suspicions grew. When the Kelly family suddenly fled towards Mexico, the local authorities inspected the inn. What they found was the stuff of nightmares. Numerous bodies hidden beneath the house, in the stable, and near the barn, revealing the true horror of what went on at the inn. Legend has it that a furious posse Maggie caught up with the Kellys, and in a swift, brutal act of frontier justice, the family finally met their end. Next, we are talking about the Staffleback family. In the rugged and wild heartland of Kansas, there once lurked a family that could give any horror movie a run for its money. Led by the matriarch Nancy Staffleback, this family wasn't just running a brothel, they were running a death trap. The nightmare is believed to have started when her sons, Ed and Mike, lost control and, in a violent fit of rage, took the lives of two women who were living at their brothel. But they didn't stop there. The Staffelbacks turned their establishment into a macabre business, robbing and taking the lives of many of the unsuspecting souls who wandered in looking for some company. While the law only managed to pin one crime against a miner whose body was unceremoniously dumped in a mine shaft on the family, whispers and rumors suggested that the Staffelbacks might have been responsible for up to 50 deaths. The true extent of their gruesome spree remains buried in history, but the chilling legacy of Nancy and her sons serve as a dark reminder of the evil that can fester behind closed doors, turning a simple house into a den of death and despair. Next, we are talking about the Murdaugh family. A long-standing pillar of South Carolina's legal scene, this family turned from being revered into reviled as their saga unfolded like a Southern Gothic tale dripping with scandal and tragedy. Starting in the 18th century, the Murdaughs were a force in the Low Country, dominating the judiciary for nearly a century. 3 generations of Randolph Murdaughs consecutively held the post of circuit solicitor from 1920 to 2006, earning the 5-county area the name Murdaugh Country. The family's law firm, founded in 1910 by Randolph Murdaugh Sr., thrived on personal injury litigation. However, beneath the surface of legal triumphs lay a murky world of crime and corruption. Richard Alex Murdaugh, along with various family members, became embroiled in a web of killing, fraud, theft, and witness intimidation. The turning point came in 2019 when Alex's son Paul was charged with felony counts related to a fatal boating accident, sparking allegations of preferential treatment. The dark underbelly of the Murdaugh dynasty was fully exposed in June 2021 when Alex's wife Maggie and son Paul were found with their lives taken at their estate. Alex was later charged with the crime, and in 2023 he was found guilty, receiving 2 consecutive life sentences without parole. This high-profile case, covered extensively by media, including an entire Netflix series, peeled back layers of a family that wielded enormous power only to be undone by their own grievous misdeeds. From legal luminaries to convicted felons, the Murdaughs' story is a dramatic fall from grace, marked by a tragic blend of power, deception, and violence that turned Murdaugh Country into a land of infamy. Next, we are talking about Gerald and Charlene Gallego. Between 1978 and 1980, Sacramento, California was the hunting ground for a notorious couple who embarked on a terrifying crime spree, leaving a trail of horror behind them. Gerald and Charlene were a deadly duo who kidnapped women, turning them into their captives and subjecting them to unspeakable horrors before brutally ending their lives. In total, they claimed 10 innocent lives. Their reign of terror came to an abrupt end after a particularly bold kidnapping of Craig Miller and Mary Elizabeth Sowers, witnessed by the victim's friend, who quickly noted the van's license plate. Despite this, the evil couple managed to take the lives of Craig and Mary before the police could catch up. Gerald was sentenced to death in both California and Nevada, symbolizing the gravity of his crimes, while Charlene, turned informant, received a comparatively lenient 16-year sentence, walking free in 1997. Gerald's life ended in prison due to rectal cancer in 2002, but the dark shadow of their deeds lingers in the memory of Sacramento to this day. Next, we are talking about David Allen Gore and Fred Waterfield. In the early 1980s, this duo, known as the Killing Cousins, unleashed a horrifying spree of violence against women. These 2 cousins were not just family, they were partners in a chilling series of gruesome crimes. They attacked their victims, dismembering their bodies and hiding them in unmarked graves. Gore, the more outspoken of the two, was found guilty of taking the lives of 6 women and definitely didn't hesitate to drag Waterfield into the nightmare, claiming he was involved in every attack. Despite this, Waterfield played the innocence card, bizarrely claiming that he was just a hostage in the whole situation. But the evidence, of course, stacked up against him, and while Gore faced execution in 2013, 30 years after their brutal crimes, Waterfield ended up with a life sentence behind bars. Next, we are talking about Kenneth Bianci and Angelo Buono Jr. Known as the Hillside Stranglers, these cousins were a chilling example of family ties turned toxic. These two turned the hills of Los Angeles into a nightmare landscape between 1977 and 1978, where they went on a crime spree that ended in taking the lives of 10 young women. What's particularly twisted is how they operated under the guise of police officers to lure their victims, showing a creepy level of cunning and manipulation. Their crimes, which originally threw investigators off by making them think a single person was behind them, revealed the dark potential of what can happen when family bonds are combined with a shared psychopathic streak. After their spree, the gruesome discoveries of the victims' bodies on the hillside sent shockwaves through the city, marking them as one of the most notorious pairs in American crime history. Bianci tried to play the insanity card, but eventually both he and Buono were caught and convicted, proving that even the closest of family can't escape the long arm of the law when they spiral into such deep evil. Next, we are talking about the Fox sisters. These were 3 siblings from Rochester, New York, who sparked the entire spiritualism movement in the 19th century. Initially, young sisters Kate and Margaret Fox fooled people into believing that they could communicate with spirits using mysterious rappings. Their older sister Leah saw an opportunity and managed their careers, turning them into famous mediums. For years, they convinced many that they were channeling the dead, influencing a wave of spiritual belief across America. However, the spooky tale took a twist in 1888 when Margaret publicly admitted that it was all a hoax. She showed that the eerie sounds were actually made by just cracking their toe joints. Despite their confession, the fascination with spiritualism didn't die down. It actually continued to grow, showing just how eager people were to believe in the possibility of contacting the afterlife. The story of the Fox sisters is a fascinating mix of deceit, fame, and the human desire to find meaning beyond this world, wrapped up in a legacy that is still debated today. Their journey from small-town tricksters to founders of a major movement shows just how powerful and persuasive a well-spun tale can be, especially when it flirts a little with the unknown. And finally, on our list today, we are talking about the Wildenstein family. Renowned as powerhouse art dealers, the Wildensteins have been at the center of the art world for generations, known for their eye for priceless works and their knack for acquiring them. But it's not just all classy galleries and elegant auctions. This family has found themselves repeatedly in the hot seat for some pretty dodgy behavior. Accusations of fraud, theft, and massive tax evasion have clung to them like paint on a palette. They're like the art world's version of a heist movie, but instead of robbing banks, they're allegedly dodging taxes and swindling heirs out of their rightful inheritances. Their private lives are just as colorful and controversial. There's been messy public divorces that could rival any soap opera, with family members squabbling over their vast fortune. In one particularly juicy episode, a member of the family apparently tried to hide hundreds of millions of dollars worth of art from his estranged wife, leading to a scandal that had everyone from Paris to New York whispering over their champagne glasses. It's like they took the phrase family drama and decided to crank it up to an 11. With the Wildensteins, it's not just about selling art, it's about mastering the art of scandal. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.